Welcome to Above Replacement Radio. I am your host, Chris Gianta. You know what Christy Mathewson wasn't worried about? SIERA. When you're thinking about Pedro Ciriaco, I mean, the only one that can compete is maybe Hannes Wagner's 1908 season. Over there on the other side of the screen is Daniel Curran.
Like, if we just clip together every time we've talked about him on other people's profiles, we've done a Mickey Cochran episode.
I can't get past Rabbit Marinville. It's not necessarily Hall of Fame. It's not necessarily above average, but we can guarantee you we are better than just the standard replacement level college sophomore.
And welcome to Above Replacement Radio, where we're talking baseball kind of whenever. I'm your host, Chris Gianta. Over there on the other side of the screen is Daniel Curran. How you doing, Daniel?
Chris, I am doing very well today. We had an awkward episode last weekend. Things didn't go exactly as planned, but we were still able to get some content out. We did our players to highlight and our matchups. But yeah, it was a quality weekend, I'd say, podcast aside. And I think we got a condensed week this week again. We're as far as the days we're recording, but we got 2 episodes coming this week.
Yeah, for sure. Summer activities can kind of alter things, and it's a thing where like you got to take advantage of your opportunities when you have them. So sometimes the podcast kind of goes,
especially in the Northeast where it's not always warm out.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, like when it's March and it's 45 degrees out, we could spend all day inside previewing teams. We're totally fine with that. But the lake houses, they have their limited months of action, and you got to take advantage of it. And that's what we've been doing. That's what I'm doing right now here in Naples, Maine. But yeah, the baseball season, the MLB season does not factor that. So there is baseball to talk about. Biggest news of the past week was a big brawl that happened out in Anaheim. The Los Angeles Angels and Seattle Mariners got into a fight. It is very interesting top to bottom. What were your thoughts on it?
Yeah, there were a lot of moving parts. It was probably one of the best quality baseball fights we've had, I'd say, since the Astros and A's one in 2020. I'd say it was probably better than that. But that was the last big one we had. But it was probably the biggest one we've had maybe since the Rangers and Blue Jays in 2016.
Yeah, I think there would be a solid argument for maybe multiple Pirates Reds ones. Back in 2019.
That is true. I'd say you could even argue that this one was bigger than that. The one constant is Jesse Winker and Raisel Iglesias.
Yeah, there were there were probably more suspensions in this one. But yeah, we
had an interpreter get suspended.
Yeah, that's
how big this was.
But yeah, the context of the situation was the night before the fight, which took place on Sunday. The fight did. The night before the fight, the
Eric
Mariners
Swanson
met up on the mound. I think that Mike Trout was the last out they had to get. They met up on the mound. And then like the 2 pitches after the meeting on the mound, the pitches were kind of up and in on Trout. Facts were they were up and in. That's for sure.
One of them would have hit him in the head if he didn't dodge it. Yes.
The next day, the Angels trot out an opener as a starter. Was it Andrew Wantz?
Andrew Wantz.
Wantz. Yeah, Andrew Wantz.
It was his first career major league start. He had over 30 relief appearances beforehand.
Yeah, and the first pitch of the game went behind Julio Rodriguez's back, I think. Yeah. I think
it was in the first inning.
Yeah, I think there was another one that almost hit him too. Then
Mhm.
first inning goes by. There's no hit by pitches for Seattle. Then the second inning comes. First pitch to Jesse Winker, Seattle's I think cleanup hitter, hits him, and Winker starts John at the dugout. I think a little bit at the pitcher. Goes towards the dugout. Starts fighting the Angels. Anthony Rendon is in a cast. We talked about his season-ending injury maybe a week and a half ago or so. He's in a cast. He just kind of mushes Jesse Winker's face with his left hand. No matter the reasoning,
It's been the season of Anthony Rendon's left hand.
yeah, no matter the reasoning, that's a pretty cool thing to do on Anthony Rendon's part.
Yeah.
Then there's just more fighting. JP Crawford, probably if there was like wins above replacement for the actual combat, I think he would lead that fight. He had the most potential damage of anyone punching. So shout out to him, I guess.
Crawford.
Yeah, JP Crawford. And then there were some I'm probably missing some things, but there were the sunflower seeds or pack of gum that was just thrown
That was
out onto
Raisel
the field.
Iglesias.
That was Raisel Iglesias.
Well, Raisel was upset because he was the peacemaker the whole time. He was just trying to separate the two sides. He found out he got ejected, and he just. By the way, the throws were amazing.
Yeah.
Like, I'm pretty sure that was also like at least the sunflower seeds. I'm pretty sure he also led with his left hand on that throw, and they almost went onto the field from the dugout. And
Yeah.
Raisel, another right-handed, he's the pitcher. Rendon is not.
Yeah.
I could be wrong on that though, but either way, very strong throw.
So yeah, the final results of this. So I'm looking at this ESPN article. MLB suspends 12 players, coaches. They forgot to add interpreters for roles in Seattle Mariners.
I guess you count that as a coach.
I guess, yeah.
I would have said like players, coaches, and staff.
So they're really burying the lead here in this article.
Okay, Phil Nevin, the Angels interim manager, got a 10-game suspension. Jesse Winker got 7. Rendon got 5, which will go into account next season. Dom Cheedy, who is an Angels coach, got suspended 5. JP Crawford got 5. Poor Andrew Wantz got 3. Brian Tapera got 3. Julio Rodriguez got 2. Ray Montgomery, who's a coach, got 2. Manny Del Campo, who's an interpreter, got 2. And Bill Hasselman, who's a coach, got 2. Got 1. So 1, 2, 3, 4 coaches and 5 coaches and 5 players, I believe, or 7 players maybe. Phil Nevin, I think, definitely deserved the most of the suspension because, like, he really instigated everything on Sunday, in my opinion.
Yeah, and it what I forgot to mention was he was sort of instigating things the night before, after Seattle actually got Mike Trout out for the last out of the game. He was yelling
it was Ohtani, but yeah.
Ohtani. So like, yeah, a batter later, they got the last out of the game. He was yelling at the team. He was yelling at the Mariners. He was yelling at Scott Service, the Mariners manager, and really just, kind of rising things. And when in the first inning, there's guys being thrown at, it's no question that Phil Nevin had a major part in the decision-making process. It wasn't Andrew Wantz acting alone here. It was clear that was a Phil Nevin thing. So yeah, it does make sense that he was suspended 10 games.
I feel bad for Andrew Wantz in this situation, because like that's a guy who does not have he's not guaranteed a spot on the team. I mean, he has been pitching well this year. 17 innings pitched, a 3.18 ERA, although he does have a 4.72 FIP. So, I mean, what
Yeah.
that suggests is, it could really take one blow up outing for him to kind of lose his spot on the team. So he kind of has no choice in this situation but to do what his manager tells him to. And in that instance, it really sounded like Phil Nevin just straight up told him, "You're going out there to hit some batters and then get ejected and leave."
Yeah, and there were many there's many guys in the Angels rotation that could have said no if they were asked to do that. Like, Noah Syndergaard, Patrick Sandoval, of course, Shohei Ohtani.
Shohei would never.
Those were guys that, could have said no to him, but like Andrew wants, he has no leverage with Phil Nevin in this situation or just the Angels in general. So yeah, of course, yeah, you definitely have to feel bad for him being thrust into this situation. Yeah, should we talk about like I don't know. Like
I find it very funny that that the Angels for the next 10 games have to go with their interim manager.
Yeah, it is very
like
funny.
They're pulling up the third string guy.
Yeah, it would be very funny if they just started streaking after that. It's like
they're like, we're actually keeping our they where they win the next 10 games. They beat the White Sox last night, I believe. So I mean, I don't know if Nevin like appealed the suspension. I don't know if anyone has appealed so far.
Yeah, I mean, like,
but
yeah, I mean, Phil Nevin's
who is
Phil
managing
Nevin
for the Angels?
He's just like, I've never like when he was announced as interim manager, I wasn't expecting much of a change
I was just like,
on.
okay, that is a human being. Yep.
Yeah, he seems
like they need a human being to fill that role, and he fit that criteria.
Yeah, and he seems like a older school kind of tough guy mentality manager. I mean, in a
clearly.
Way. Having his rookie pitcher throw at some pretty good hitters that the Mariners have. So yeah, I mean, I think
also even just the idea of, I feel like the idea of throwing at someone intentionally is a very older school mindset. Like, I don't think, like Aaron Boone or Alex Cora or like Rocco Baldelli is going out telling their players to do that. And they've all been in situations where there's been animosity towards teams. Like, I don't think, Rocco Baldelli was like, "Hey, I want you guys throwing at Yermin Mercedes because he swung on 3-0 and hit that ball."
Yeah. Oh yeah. Yeah. I agree with that. Like, I feel like the term brush back pitch has been used less and less over time.
Yeah. Like, I really think that intentionally hitting someone is kind of on its way out.
Yeah, for sure. I think like way back in the day, going for the head was more acceptable. Now, like, even the oldest school never do that. That's just pretty much out of the game. If it is that way,
the amount of times, anytime there's a fight, or like anytime some guy like hits a home run and flips the bat and does all the celebration stuff, if it ever makes headlines, go on Twitter and just search Bob Gibson, and you'll just see a bunch of, well, you know what Bob Gibson would have done?
Yeah. Yeah, that's very true. Yeah,
especially if someone does it against the Cardinals.
Right.
Like, if you like, I remember in 2019, like during the NLCS when Soto was doing his thing, like he was doing the Soto shuffle, he was hitting well. There were so many Cardinal fans like, we need to hit Soto in the head right now.
Yeah. It was yeah, that was it makes a little bit of sense. Not to do that, but that people have that mentality still in a way. Also,
I think it is an older generation
anyone saying that someone should be domed in the head has never like been up close to a
Been domed in
95
the
mile
head.
per hour fastball, or even just been in the batter's box to see 95. Like
or even really anything.
you can't be wishing a dome piece on any of that. So yeah, I mean, Phil Nevin, I think, yeah, he deserves a suspension. 10 games is a lot, but I don't think it's crazy excessive. Jesse Winker, I think
I think it's warranted.
but by like, you have to give him a suspension for he instigated a fight.
I mean, Major League Baseball's their criteria isn't the context; it's always just your role. And like anytime there's a fight, like they're trying to prevent stuff like that. And Jesse Winker, did he play a major role in the fight? Yeah, he did. He absolutely did. The fight probably wouldn't have happened without him, even if it wasn't his fault. Even if going back to the last night, like I remember, he was making the case saying like, we didn't hit you guys just hit us.
Yeah.
Yeah, you have to. It shouldn't be a surprise to anyone that he got 7 games.
Yeah, for sure. And if it's you can debate whether he's justified or not. But the fact is like, if you instigate a fight, you're gonna get about a week-long suspension, which is what he's getting. So
yes.
So yeah, a good fun baseball fight. We love to see that. Luckily,
A real one.
Yeah, luckily no one was hurt either. So bonuses all around. Giving us
good job, guys.
Some great wholesome content to end our weekend. So that leads into some
Another
more
AL West story.
More action in the AL West. I was just about to say that. Yeah. More action in the AL West with there was a no-hitter. The Houston Astros no-hit best team in baseball this year, the New York Yankees. So that's impressive in its own right. They struck out 15 Yankee batters. They walked 3. It was a combined no-hitter. Christian Javier threw 7 innings. Hector Neris threw 1, and then Ryan Presley closed it out with a perfect inning of 2 strikeouts. This one was pretty interesting. Like, not a guy you'd necessarily expect to have such a performance. Not a lineup you'd expect to get no hit. What were your thoughts on the no hitter when it happened?
It was cool. I mean, I think it's the Astros and Yankees as a rivalry is definitely in right now, even though the storylines are very dated. But you know what? Both fan bases don't like each other. They're the 2 best teams in the American League. So I think it's fun that, the Astros now have this leverage against the Yankees. Like the last 2 times that they've been no hit have both been against the Astros, which I think is interesting and pretty cool, honestly.
Yeah, for sure. And like, we mentioned it's a combined no hitter. We've been kind of we haven't loved combined no hitters, but if we were to do
and like this, and this is no different, but given the teams, it's cooler.
Yeah, if it's a combined, like if we're doing a tier list on combined no hitters, I'd say this is like a potentially S tier combined no hitter. Given strikeout numbers,
it's SOPS plus.
Yeah. Given strikeout numbers, walk numbers, and the team it was against. And I'm not even saying like saying this as a Yankee hater, which I sort of am. However, like I'm giving credit to the Yankees in that like this is a very good lineup.
Yeah.
They're not expected to be no hit, and they were no hit. And like the Yankees also deserve a lot of credit in the series in general, which is another subject. They came back from 3-run deficits late twice to earn a split. But yeah, also from a statistical angle, Christian Javier went 7 innings, 13 strikeouts, 1 walk. He threw 115 pitches. He had 5 pitches per plate appearance, and I was actually watching some of it last night, and I noticed a lot of foul balls. Yankees actually did a very good job of extending their plate appearances and making sure that Javier didn't have a individual perfect game or individual no-hitter. And I looked at a stat, or I found a stat. The Yankees on 48% of their swings had a foul ball against Christian Javier.
Wow.
Which is league average, I think, is 37%, which I thought it was going to be lower, but still, like, the Yankees were on that particular day fouling off balls at a better than average rate and extending at bats. So Javier really fought and clawed for those 13 strikeouts against those Yankees hitters. So, he had a fantastic 7 innings. I think it's also kind of reflective. He's had a pretty good year. I think last year was a bit of a down year for him, and I think he's recovering sort of well and establishing himself more as a starter now. So good for him there. Hector Neris was the guy you had to get nervous about. I think he walked 2 batters and he gave up a 112 mile per hour out to Aaron Judge, but then Ryan Presley closed it out with 2 strikeouts and then a soft ground ball to third base. Any more thoughts on this no-hitter?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's encouraging for Christian Javier, like you just mentioned. That's a guy who, had the down year. He's a guy that, if he has really good stuff and if he can just stay in the zone, like, he's gonna be filthy. And he was that day. He faced Garrett Cole, who's kind of in the same boat. One just little odd thing I was looking at. So Joey Gallo had a ball that was hit 112.4 miles an hour at a 42-degree launch angle. It was a barrel with a 670 expected batting average and went 334 feet. And I was like, okay, that sounds pretty legit. I wanted to check like other batted balls that had those similar metrics to see if maybe it was a dead ball thing, if it's a, whatever. And since 2015, there's been one other batted ball with a exit velocity between 111 and 113 miles an hour and a launch angle between 41 and 43. And it was Rougned Odor in 2019, and it went 375 feet. Gallows went 334, which that could be a 2019 thing. That could be a 2022 thing. It could be the top spin or the bottom spin that the ball had, because that does play a factor in how far a ball goes. But I found it very funny that they're the only 2 batted balls and they had a 40 feet separation.
Yeah. That is very funny.
But other than that, like, the Yankees, they had 2 like solid hit balls between that, and it ended up being a fly out to the warning track in left field. The ballpark just barely held it in.
Yeah,
and
it was funny too, because it was Hector Neris on the mound. And Astros were only up 2-0 at the time, so the game was not fully in their hands.
That could have given them the lead, yeah.
And that pitch, it was the first pitch right down the middle too. And Gallo just missed. Like, if he was more prepared, if he was more like, I'm going to go for this first pitch, he could have sent it like 480 feet if he wanted to. But just barely missed it. Obviously, it's hard to hit it.
It's like whatever ALCS game it was in 2019 where someone on the Yankees hit what would have been like a go-ahead home run late, but it was a fly out to the warning track, but it would have been a routine fly out in any other stadium. And Yankee fans, like, to this day are like, imagine if that ball went out. Oh. I don't remember who hit it.
Yeah.
Hang on. You know what I'm talking about, right?
Wait, which ALCS?
It was 2019.
2019.
It was one of the games at Yankee Stadium. The Astros ended up winning.
Was it like a day game or like a 4:00 game?
Something like that, yeah.
I feel like it was the game Garrett Cole started in the Bronx, where Yankee fans mocked him in the bullpen before he signed a record-breaking contract with them.
Yep.
which
Yeah.
I don't fault them for.
Before
I mean,
Red Sox fans later did it with. No, absolutely. Like he shouldn't get a pass in that specific moment because, he was a future Yankee.
yeah.
Yeah, I can't find it, but if you know, you know.
If we know, yeah. If you know, you know.
Actually, wait. Let me hang on. I'm gonna go a little further into my research here. You can keep talking though.
Yeah. So in terms of stats about this no-hitter, yeah, like the Gallo ball, I mean, that was close to being out. Yeah, right on the warning track. But yeah, it wouldn't have been close to being out in a good amount of ballparks. But it was a fastball right down the middle that really could have been hammered. And it was hit 112 miles per hour. And then yeah, Judge's 112 mile per hour 6-degree launch
Like a
angle,
line drive.
basically, yeah, line drive. If it wasn't hit right at the shortstop, it would have been a guaranteed hit for sure. Yeah, all no hitters are going to have that. The Yankees had an expected batting average of 094 on the day, which is very low even for a no hitter. I think the no hitters this year have had expected batting averages. Well, I know the Reed Detmers one was like in the 240s, I think. So this was much more
Yep.
much better than that one. And then compared to other combined no hitters, I think, yeah, this one was really good. Like very quality team to do it against, and 15 strikeouts. Not a lot of balls hit very hard. Like the Astros didn't really luck their way into a no hitter at all. And I think the other great combined no hitters that might top these would be when the Astros had their starter get injured. And then they just had a bullpen game for a combined no hitter. Of course, the Angels won after.
And then also, I was to say the Angels one had to be there
after the passing of Tyler Skaggs, and I don't mind that much, like when the starter goes 8 and then there's just a closer. The most recent one was Corbin Burns. He went 8 innings. Josh Hader went 1. They combined for like 16 strikeouts.
Yep.
So yeah, if we're talking combined no hitters, those are up there. And yeah, we got this one. This one was pretty wild too.
Hang on,
I'll pause the
I'm about to find this home run that I was referring to.
Another chance for Gregorius, 2 on, 2 out. High fly ball into right, back at the wall. It is caught to end the inning.
So yeah, the potential home run that Daniel was talking about, we might edit it into the video episode. So go to Above Replacement Radio on YouTube and watch that. But yeah, it was, the combined forces of a 2019 baseball and Yankee Stadium. If it was Fenway and it was a 2022 baseball,
or just any other stadium,
yeah, the guy would be coming in on it probably. But yeah, that it is funny that that you referenced that, because yeah, things, ballparks and different types of baseballs can really affect things. All right, so that should do it for the Astros no hitter. Now we get into a fun topic. I think this race has been sort of heating up lately. We've talked about it on our own a little bit, and it's the AL MVP race. There's a lot of good potential candidates. I would say there's like 6 to really consider, which is not something you see a lot. No one's particularly running away with it. I know that it's, Actually, it's late June now. I was about to say it's mid-June. Yeah, it's late June, and yeah, we're talking AL MVP. So, do we want to talk about the race as a whole? Do we want to go
Let's go.
uh,
Let's break down every individual
one
candidate.
by one? Yeah.
Yeah.
I
So
have. Go ahead.
So the order we go in does not reflect our views. This is just the order I'm going in. So I'm going to start with Yordan Alvarez of the Houston Astros, who of course just signed a $115 million extension for 6 years. And that's been paying immediate dividends for Houston. This year he is slashing 312, 404, 649 for a 1053 OPS in 270 plate appearances. He has a 12.6% walk rate and only a 16.7% strikeout rate. That is pretty amazing. He has a 198 weighted runs created plus that leads the American League. The only other person in the majors with a higher weighted runs created plus would be Paul Goldschmidt at 199, exactly 1 point higher. The only issue with his case, I'd say, he's the best offensive player, but because he's a DH, that's going to push him back a little bit. He currently ranks, where is he ranking F4? I'm trying to find him.
6th.
He ranks 9th in F4 in the majors.
Oh, so 6th
at
in the
3.4. Yeah. Which is pretty, I mean, that's very good.
Especially for
Yordan
DH.
Alvarez is the first candidate. And best offensive player in my mind, but the defense is going to push him back. The base running is going to push him back. If we're talking all-around player, I don't know if I know how valuable the writers consider that. So I think, he's going to have to be the best offensive player in the league by a wide margin to have a chance at the MVP. But as it stands right now, he definitely has that chance.
Yeah, I would definitely say so. Yeah, Alvarez has jumped into that conversation. He's been, you could argue, the best player in baseball over the past few weeks. No matter like offense, defense, just combined everything. So yeah, as you mentioned, he's hitting 312 with a 1053 OPS. He's first in the AL in OPS and weighted runs created plus, and he's 6th in the AL in F4. Also should be noted. So in the StatCast era, and this stat can obviously change because this is a smaller sample size and the season is continuing. But in the StatCast era, there has never been a season with a higher expected WOBA, minimum 150 batted balls. He has a 492 expected WOBA,
That's
and
incredible.
And like a 440 something actual WOBA. So it's funny to think, the guy leading in weighted runs created plus should be doing better, according to the expected.
Like a lot better, actually.
Yeah, a lot better. Part of it, I think, is the baseballs, but even beyond that, I think he should be doing. He should be
there are a lot
doing
of people that
better.
have better expected stats.
But yeah, in terms of whether I think what his chances that he will win or not. So he has the offense, he has the team behind him. I mean, the West is 99% chance the Astros win that AL West. So he has that going for him. I think also wins above replacement is considered a little less when we're talking about DHs, because we know, we kind of know their impact on offense sometimes, it's overlooked by wins above replacement, I guess. And I think writers tend to favor DHs more than their wins above replacement would indicate. And also based on expected statistics, he should be maintaining this level of offense, a similar level of offense for the rest of the year. I wouldn't be surprised if he ended up with a weighted runs created plus around 200 to end the year. So that could be a big separation from the rest of the pack if the end of the year comes. I don't think he will end up winning it, but I think there's a good chance of him being a potential finalist for sure. I guess the most recent example to compare him to is JD Martinez from 2018. Martinez led in He led an RBI. He didn't lead an OPS. He didn't lead in weighted runs created plus.
He won 2 Silver Sluggers that year.
Yeah, that was very funny. But yeah, he trailed an OPS to Trout and Betts, so I guess that kind of hurt him. Alvarez isn't currently trailing anybody in those statistics, so he might have a better luck with that. But yeah, Martinez finished 4th in AL MVP at that point.
Who would you like to talk about next?
I think so who I listed first was Aaron Judge because he's like he's the most popular pick right now. You could debate whether it's deserved or not. None of these guys are running away with it currently, I would say.
Yeah. Between the 6 that we're about to name, I don't think there's any right or wrong order to put them in. I think at the end we should do our rankings.
Yeah, for sure. So, and also what I forgot to mention about Alvarez, I put in win probability added, the ranking in the American League. Alvarez is 4th in win probability added, which is, yeah, that's very good. Aaron Judge, he's hitting 293 with a 1006 OPS. He's 2nd in the AL and FWAR and 3rd in the AL in weighted runs created plus. He's the league leader in home runs with 28. And he's in the 100th percentile in expected WOBA. He only trails Yordan Alvarez out of like guys with a qualifying sample size. Also, with Aaron Judge, he has 2 outs above average defensively, so he's slightly above average on the defensive side of things, and he is 3rd in win probability added in the American League. I think what a lot of people are considering also is he's on the best team in baseball. He's a large reason of why the Yankees are 54-20. So
something crazy like that.
So yeah, like that's a big reason why people are thinking he's going to be running away with it. I think there's a good.
If it comes.
Go ahead.
If it comes down to this close a race, which I mean, the idea that all 6 will be this close by the time we get to the end of the season is probably very low, because it's very likely that maybe someone, knock on wood, gets hurt. Hopefully not, but someone outplays others. Someone falls off a little bit because they're obviously all at a super high standard right now that it's hard to imagine all 6 are going to play 165 OPS baseball, or actually 170 OPS plus baseball for the entire last 3 months of the season, while also healthy the whole time. But yeah, if it comes down to a race where it's this close, I think Aaron Judge is probably the most deserving candidate just based on team success. Like, I know that we try to avoid team success when talking about the MVP race, but when you have a team that, who knows how many games the Yankees are going to win, let's say, I mean, they're on pace for around 120 right now. So if they stay on that pace and maybe win like 110, it's hard to give it to someone that's not Judge under those circumstances.
Yeah, and also just being a baseball observer, and I know like social media doesn't reflect an objective
talent.
race, but like you just see him consistently with he's delivering in some high leverage situations. I think he recently had a walk-off on Sunday. I think he had another walk-off
on Thursday.
Yeah, he had 2 walk-offs in that one series. So he's delivering when it matters. He's 3rd in win probability added in the American League. He's also the complete package. A good defensive right fielder. I think he's.
Hasn't he moved to center?
Oh right, yeah, that's true.
That's even more impressive. Like, he kind of had to learn a harder position on the fly this year.
Yeah, so like a quality defender out in center field. He's a quality base runner, and of course, one of the best at smashing baseballs. He has, a 25% barrel rate, which is pretty insane. Very, very insane. So yeah, I mean, no one's gonna be surprised if he ends up grabbing this award. Um, and I think there's a very good argument that he's the front runner right now. All right. Do we
I will go
wanna-
next.
Yeah, go ahead.
I will talk about Jose Ramirez next
Nice.
because, I mean, there are so many things he's doing that no one else is doing. For example, the 12% walk rate with the 7% strikeout rate. He has the lowest strikeout rate in Major League Baseball among qualifiers, and he also has a weighted runs created plus of 178. Actually, Luis Arias is tied with him now with his exact same walk rate, funnily enough. But I mean, what is there not to say about Jose Ramirez and what he's done this year? You know, we've talked about the Guardians being a surprise team. They, up until a few days ago, were leading the American League Central, and I also put a Guardians player on slightly alarming. That's how much he's been carrying this team. He is a flat 1,000 OPS with plus base running, amazing walk numbers with strikeout numbers as well. Defense has been acceptable. Not anything superb, but I mean, he's hitting 300, 387, 613 for a 1,000 OPS. He's a switch hitter as well, so he can do it from both sides. He has a 418 WOBA with an expected WOBA right around the same place, I'm pretty sure. He is a okay, yeah. So yeah, I mean, he's been outstanding. He has a 3.9 wins above replacement that ranks third among these six, only behind someone who we'll name later and Aaron Judge. And I don't know, like anything that you can say about him has been good. He also has a 276 BABIP, so there's reason to believe he might actually be getting a little unlucky.
Yeah. Jose Ramirez is his luck factor is, it's a little weird. Like, so I'll get into it a little later, but yeah, with Jose Ramirez, satisfactory numbers with a flat 300 average and a flat 1,000 OPS. So that's pretty quality. Yeah, third in the American League in F4, fourth in OPS and weighted runs created plus, and he has 12 stolen bases, which are tied for sixth in the American League. He's also second in the American League in offensive runs above average, which includes, that's your offensive impact, hitting, base running, all that. -1 outs above average. So, I mean, that's pretty much just what's the term? It's just pretty much
around average.
It's not effective. His defense isn't really affecting it, good or bad, his case. So what's interesting about him is he has the highest WOBA minus xWOBA out of 162 hitters, or as of yesterday, it was 162 hitters with 150 plus batted balls this year. But it's weird because it's not because he's like blooping. It's not because he's like blooping the ball or like getting some ground balls with eyes. It's like kind of the fault of, it's like the one thing you could have an issue with like the expected statistics is it doesn't factor direction, and he's had a lot of pull home runs. I did a little digging last night. He has the 8th highest rate of pull home runs out of 70 batters with 10 plus home runs this season. And I was trying to see what his slugging minus expected slugging was on home runs particularly, because the thing about expected statistics is a 100 mile per hour exit velocity and 25-degree launch angle. That's what the exit velocity and the launch angle is exactly what is the only things that are considered when considering expected batting average. If you hit that right down the right field line, or if you hit that to dead center, you're going to get the same expected statistics. So when you're pulling a lot of home runs,
it's not going to be super friendly.
It's not going to be super friendly to you. However, like, he's not getting lucky because he's pulling all his home runs. He's, you can like a hitter of his caliber can recognize when you can pull the ball. And, he's been doing that. So I don't necessarily consider the WOBA minus X WOBA marks or that luck gap. So yeah, final stat I'll have on Jose Ramirez. There are, I think it's still 70. Still 71 batters to have 71 batters to have 10 home runs this season. Ramirez has the fourth highest slugging minus expected slugging of those 71, meaning he's expected to slug the fourth, like he's fourth quote unquote luckiest on his home runs, but it just means he's really pulling the ball on his home runs. And I don't factor that as much as if, someone's grounding balls through the hole or, blooping balls into, against the shift or something like that in terms of, using the luck factor. I don't really use it as much if you're just pulling home runs. So I think Ramirez's success is sustainable. Long story short, with all those numbers, that's what I'm trying to say. I think his season is sustainable. I think he's going to stay in this race and keep establishing himself as, one of the best players in baseball. He's been that way for a while now. And Ramirez, last thing I'll say on him is he is 10th in win probability added in the American League. So he trails a little bit in that department, but I think one game can really change your win probability added. So I'm not too worried about that. Next player I can get into is actually we'll stay at third base and talk about Rafael Devers. He's hitting .333 with a .995 OPS. He's first in the American League in F4, fifth in the American League in weighted runs created plus. He's also the league leader in doubles with 26. And also what should be noted is out of him, Judge, Trout, Ramirez, and Alvarez, Devers has the most defensive runs above average. He's really improved his defensive game, and that's shown with Fangraphs' main metric of defense. Also, Devers is second in win probability added in the American League. Devers, he's interesting. First year where he's really in the heat of this MVP race. What are your thoughts on Rafael Devers?
I mean, there's a lot of things that have definitely improved of his. You mentioned the defense, like the Fangraphs overall stat is better. His outs above average is still in the 17th percentile, which isn't good, but it's a pretty significant upgrade for him. You'd be pretty surprised because he was in the 4th percentile in 2020, the 1st percentile in 2021. Of course, 2019, he had that random year where he was in the 99th percentile after never passing the 10th percentile in any other year.
Also,
but he's been doing better this year. Go ahead.
Also, percentile for outs above average can be weird because, like, especially at this point in the season, there's so many fielders and many of them are like league average. So if you're like barely below league average, you can be like at a very bad percentile. I think outs above average wise, he's probably at like -1 or -2, which is average.
Yeah, I can check that. But anyway, he in years past he had a couple of struggles just with hitting fastballs. And this year he is hitting .326 with a .695 slugging percentage against fastballs, and his expected statistics are right there, like they're 3 or 4 points below. So that's really a non-factor. He's doing exactly what he's supposed to do. If you look at his hit spread chart, it is just a beautiful thing. Like it's evenly spread around the field. There's, lots of doubles, lots of home runs. It's very, the color code is very aesthetically pleasing for sure. His line drive rate is higher than his fly ball rate.
Wow.
Yeah. That's pretty remarkable. 27.8% to 23.6%. His ground ball rate is 43.5%, which is pretty low. So that's pretty excellent. I mean, he like the best thing to say about Devers is just that he's crushing the ball, and he is. His hard hit rate is currently at 53.6%. That is in the 97th percentile. He's also in the 99th percentile in expected batting average, and the 98th in average exit velocity, the 95th in xWOBA, the 96th in x slugging, the 88th in barrel percentage, and the 77th percentile in K rate, which is actually pretty significant. Last year, his strikeout rate was 21.5%. This year, it's down to 17%. The walks you would like to be a little higher, but they're right around his league average or his career average. So as far as batted ball data, Devers and plate appearance data, Devers is doing just about as well as he's ever done, if not better.
Yeah, he's just one of the best bat to ball hitters out there. And like, I'm not, it's with Devers, it's like I don't necessarily hate him having a low walk rate, because even when he swings out of the zone, a lot of the times it is a hit. His chase contact rate is probably like one of the best out there. And he does well.
I can check that.
I think he does well when hitting out of the zone, but I would break that down maybe at a later date.
His chase contact percent is 62.8.
I think that's above
That's
average.
pretty
I thought it would have
amazing.
been a little higher, but
It's still amazing. I mean, his career average is 63.3.
yeah, that's pretty wild. But yeah, yeah, Devers, I think he'll stay in this race, especially if his strikeout rate is down, quality of contact is up. But yeah, Devers, he's really establishing himself. He's 25. I think he'll just keep getting better, and it makes sense that he's in this MVP race. Also, big reason why the Red Sox are, in the playoff race. They're a firm wild card team right now after an 11-20 start. And Devers is a big reason why they've had their very recent success. Do we want to get into
Our Angels?
our Angels? Yes.
Yeah. So I will go first with Mike Trout. At this point, he really doesn't need much of an introduction. He is slashing 286, 391, 647 for a 1038 OPS. And that's even with that big offer that he had in around the losing streak, like early June. He has a 188 weighted runs created plus that leads everyone in the American League except for Yordan Alvarez. His defense has improved this year. He has 3.8 wins above replacements, which is right around everyone else. A 13% walk rate. His strikeout rate is pretty high, but I feel like that probably won't get considered very much. He also has a higher expected WOBA than his actual WOBA. He has a 432 WOBA and a 436 expected WOBA. So he's doing just about what you'd think. This is really interesting. In 2021, his launch angle went down to 12% or 12 degrees, and had never been below 8. Like the last 2 years, it had been in the 20s, and now it's actually the highest it's been in the Statcast era. It's at 24.4%. He has a fly ball rate at 47%.
Wow.
That is remarkable. Oh my lord.
Yeah, he's
Fly ball rate at 47%. A
um
ground ball rate at 23%. So Mike Trout's batted ball data has been historic. He has like I mentioned earlier, he has a 47.2% fly ball rate. That leads the 4,605 seasons with at least 150 batted balls since 2008. 75 fly balls, 159 total batted balls. Additionally, he has a 23.9% ground ball rate. That ranks third on that same list of 4,605 seasons. The only two that have a lower ground ball rate are Rod Barajas in 2010 and 11. Shout out to Foolish Baseball.
yeah, Mike Trout. Really lifting the ball. You mentioned an average launch angle of 24.4.
Mhm.
Yeah, that's pretty wild. And he's hitting, I mean, getting good results either
One thing
way.
that's very funny, Rod Barajas in 2000. I just want to. Okay, actually, never mind. Scratch what I was gonna say. Rod Barajas also on top of the fly ball leaderboards,
Yeah, like
which it makes sense. For some reason I thought it didn't, but it does.
you would think with the baseballs the way they are, like having a higher fly ball rate wouldn't work out,
That's
um
gonna hurt you.
but yeah, um Trout's hit 22 home
What's his
runs.
home run to fly ball ratio? 22
Um
home runs. His home run to fly ball ratio is it's 24.4.
so that's very good.
Yeah.
Seems so, yeah. Um yeah, that's pretty crazy. But yeah, regarding overall statistics, yeah, he's hitting 286 with a 1038 OPS. He's second in OPS and weighted runs created plus. He's fourth in F4, 99th percentile in expected WOBA. Also, doing pretty well in the defensive department, which is something I wouldn't necessarily expect as a guy heading into his 30s and coming off an injury that
Mhm.
wasn't it a cat? Was it a calf injury?
Something like that. It
Yeah,
was like a base run related injury, I believe.
yeah, I think it was, something that restricted his mobility, and yet he has 3 outs above average this year, which would put him on a pace to have like, 7 or 8, which is a very, very quality defensive season. And also Mike Trout, which is kind of surprising. This stat is kind of surprising considering the team he's on, but he's first in win probability added, which is pretty nuts. But nonetheless, yeah, I mean, doing all he can to help the Angels win, like every year.
Yeah.
But but yeah, first in win probability added. So yeah, he himself has a very interesting case as well. Um, and we'll stay in that race. And there's always going to be the people that are saying, shouldn't be in the race if you're not in the playoffs. But I mean, the thing I say every time is, what would the
That's such an
Angels?
out. After last year, you can't say that. Like the top three vote getters in AL and NL MVP all did make the playoffs. You can't be using that argument anymore.
It's yeah. I like that the writers know that's a stupid argument now, but there's still a good
Mhm.
amount of fans out there that live by that narrative.
Whatever.
But yeah, who cares? Where would the Angels be without Mike Trout? They'd be in a much worse position. I mean, he's first in win probability added in the American League, so clearly he's making a very good impact for that team. And usually, win probability added is a stat skewed towards guys on winning teams. He's not on a winning team, and he's still first in that stat,
Mhm.
which says a lot about his season. Um, I guess do anything more on Mike Trout?
I think we covered all of it really.
Yeah. So last guy, I want to talk about the reigning AL MVP. Not as much hype this year, but still very much in the running, and still has a good chance of winning this race. Shohei Ohtani. He's had a better pitching season this year than last year, funnily enough. Offensively,
Mhm.
he hasn't been as good, but he's still been very, very good. It's funny like how close his OPS plus and ERA plus is. Well, at least as of last night. I don't know if the stats are completely updated, but as of last night, he had a 135 OPS plus and 136 ERA plus. Also, what should be considered is his FIP is better than his ERA this year. So that that works out for him pretty well. I mean, a 2.76 FIP this year, pretty insane. His strikeout to walk numbers are crazy as a pitcher. His offensive numbers are great. Not as big of an impact on the bases this year, I will say, as he was last year. And then overall, he is 8th in combined B WAR and 8th in combined F WAR in the American League. And then the last thing I'll say on Shohei Ohtani is he's 18th unluckiest with hitting in WOBA minus X WOBA out of the 160 some odd batters with 150 plus batted balls this year. So he's gotten a little unlucky with the bat. Maybe that's a reason why he hasn't had as great as of offensive numbers. So maybe those numbers can climb up a little bit. What are your thoughts on Ohtani this year?
So this is probably the trickiest of the 6 candidates, because so if you add up his if you add up his F4 on the pitching and hitting side, it adds up to 3.3, which is actually the lowest of the 6 candidates that we've mentioned. But you still, like, you have to factor in the fact that he's pitching and hitting at the same time. You can't just pretend like that isn't a thing when you're evaluating these players. And when you look at what he did last year, like, this year seems very underwhelming. But like, you can't do that. Like, you can't, like, if Shohei was doing this last season, we would have reacted the same way. We would have been like, this is unbelievable, the type of season that this guy is having right now. Of course, he was much better. He was the top offensive player in the league while also being a solid pitcher. This year, it is a little more balanced out between the two. But yeah, you can't just, like, we can't just become numb to pretty decent at both when we saw amazing at one and decent at one last year, because decent at both at the same time is still unprecedented.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, it's something that has to be desired. And like 135 OPS plus and 136 ERA plus, I would say also, I don't think you would disagree with this, but that's even beyond decent. That's like very good marks this season for both. And also, like, in terms of like all 6 of these candidates, I think Ohtani still has the most like potential. I think there's still some things we haven't seen out of him. Whereas, like, Yordan, Aaron Judge, Devers, Ramirez, and Trout, I would say, are all pretty much playing to their full potential. Like, Ohtani still, I think there's still there's more to come from him. He's not doing bad at all, but I think there's still a little more that we could see from him this year.
Absolutely. I mean, you mentioned one of the unluckier bats. Like the hitting, I think, will come around. Like, I think he has an 830 OPS right now. I think we're looking at least a high 800 for him by the end of the year, along with that solid pitching. Do we want to go over do we want to do current rankings and what we think the rankings will be between the 6 of them at the end of the year?
Sure. And this is
because I think that'll change. Okay.
This will be completely off top for me, but do you want to go ahead?
Same. Yeah. So if I'm doing current rankings between the 6 that we just mentioned, Ramirez, Devers, Judge, Trout, Yordan, Shohei, I would say as of right now, my AL MVP is Jose Ramirez. Number 2, I have Aaron Judge. Number 3, I would go with Trout, then Ohtani, then Devers, then Alvarez. It's such a hard ranking because any of that could change on any given day. And yours is probably going to look a lot different because they are all so close. But like I said, I don't think there's a wrong answer.
Yeah, very, very true. Yeah, it's very hard to decide on. I might say, based off of offensive rate statistics and defense that we've seen, although outs above average doesn't tell the whole story, I could go Trout 1. Am I comfortable doing that though?
You could go anyone 1.
Yeah, I think outs above average doesn't consider the arm as much, and Judge has played slightly more games. Trout had like a little bit of a he had like a day-to-day injury thing that kept him from playing a little bit. But so I guess I'll go Judge 1, Trout 2, Ramirez 3, Devers 4, Alvarez 5, Ohtani 6, for current rankings.
Okay, so what are we feeling for end of season rankings? I guess I'll go first.
Yeah.
This is going to be off the top of my head. I'd go Judge, Ohtani, Devers, Trout, Ramirez, Yordan,
Who'd you have number 2?
Ohtani.
Ohtani. Yeah. 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 I think my end of the year. Yeah. I think Judge will win it. Where it stands right now, I think it'll go Judge. Then I might go Ramirez 2, Ohtani 3, Devers 4, Trout 5, Alvarez 6. Although I don't know.
I don't know either.
I don't like Trout. I don't see Trout being. Trout isn't it wouldn't be number 5. It just wouldn't make sense. Maybe.
No.
Yeah.
That's why I put him at 3.
I would say,
Or
okay,
4 or
let me
something like
redo
that,
that.
yeah.
Judge number 1, Trout 2, Ramirez 3, Ohtani 4, Devers 5, Alvarez 6.
Alvarez. And like, it's not guaranteed that this will be the top 6, but I think we're going among these 6. What will the rankings be?
All right, I'll change it real quick. Alvarez 5, Devers 6. Because I
Okay.
think Alvarez's quality of contact signifies like he's gonna remain at the top of these offensive rankings. Not
Yeah.
saying that Devers isn't, but like Alvarez has been that good of a hitter. All right. So I guess that leads into players to highlight for good and bad reasons. We'll start with the good. With our Our Tuesday, June 28, 2022 edition of who do you have for us today?
Side note, so this is the funniest thing ever. So the 2022 ESPYs, like the ESPN, yearly sports awards, they just announced their nominees for other awards. For best MLB player, this is too funny. The candidates are Shohei Ohtani, Bryce Harper, Aaron Judge, and Jorge Soler.
No way. When you only watch
I
Game
get
6
that.
of the World Series.
Did you only watch? Yeah. That's just too good.
Yeah.
Like, he's not going to win it. Like, they're gonna give it to Ohtani, and deservingly so. But man, that is just too funny.
It is very funny. Yeah. He yeah, when you confuse World Series MVP for MVP. Yeah.
Even like, I mean, if I'm Vlad Jr., I'm pissed.
True, yeah. Yeah, and Jorge Soler was
Soler was on the Royals this time last year.
He was a slightly alarming of yours, I think.
Yes. In the last year. I guess it was before the ESPYs. I don't know like what timeline they use, because like if they use the back half of 2021 and the first of 2022.
Yeah, it's
I don't know.
Either way,
I don't
it's
know.
extremely weird.
It's very funny though. Like, not that I mean, I couldn't tell you off the top of my head who has won the ESPYs for best MLB player in the past. I would just guess by who won MVP. Like in 2021, I guess I would have said Freddie Freeman.
Yeah. Like I don't think anyone was voting Jose Abreu at the time.
No. Maybe like Mookie Betts.
Yeah.
Actually, it probably would have been Mookie Betts. I don't know, because he did win a World Series and whatever. But I just thought that was very funny that it was those 3 like top of the game hitters and then Jorge Soler.
Yeah, that's so funny. All All right. So who do you have as your how about that?
Yeah. So my how about that was someone who had a lot of expectations placed on him this year, and I think he's coming into his own right now, and it's Josiah Gray. He has a 1.24 ERA over his last 5 starts, which ranks tied for third best among the 127 pitchers with at least 20 innings pitched over that span. He does have 29, so he doesn't exactly hit the qualifier, and he has a 3.68 FIP in the span, so he has been on the luckier side, but his batted ball data has changed for the better, and there are a lot of reasons. I think the message here is there's still more to come with the work in progress that is Josiah Gray, but there are a lot of things that are coming right now. So before this span, Josiah Gray had a line drive rate of 31.5%, which was the 4th worst among the 123 pitchers with at least 100 batted balls against over that span. And in this span, his line drive rate is shrunk to just 16.7%. That is 9th best among the 145 pitchers with at least 50 batted balls. So he went from 4th worst to 9th best throughout the span. Also, before the span, he had a sweet spot percentage against of 46.8%, the highest of the 123 pitchers with at least 100 batted balls. And in this span, his sweet spot percentage has shrunk to 27.8%. That is tied for the 20th best among the 145 pitchers with 50 batted balls against. And lastly, for the whole season, 23% of his batted balls have had a launch angle above 45 degrees. That is the highest rate among the 117 pitchers with at least 50 batted balls against. So Josiah Gray, he's been figuring it out with the batted balls. He's getting better contact for himself. The walks and the home runs are still to come, but as of right now, he's doing better.
Yeah. Josiah Gray.
How about that?
Josiah Gray, of course, was in the Max Scherzer Trey Turner deal last year. He was the top prospect to go in that package. And I guess for the listeners, if you're wondering what the significance of the directional ball data, getting it in the direction you don't want, I guess hitters can kind of control the direction, but if you're being more deceptive as a pitcher and the pitches aren't as predictable, or if they're moving better, it's harder for the pitcher, or it's harder for the batter to identify the ball and get it where they hit it, how they want to hit it. So I think, the directional batted ball data is very significant. And, that's why, it does signify a positive change if hitters are having that much of a drastic change. So that crosses another team off the list, right?
Yes, it does.
Mine doesn't, I'm afraid to say, but
That's okay.
But we got time.
You can't do it for the wrong reasons. You can't put a guy on how about that just to knock a team off.
You can't do it. It's not pure.
Yeah.
But my how about that? He's a little more higher profile. He's on a higher profile team, and I highlighted him twice last year. He was a freeze over for a little bit. There's potential again this year, I guess, because he's a how about that. However, I'm talking about Dansby Swanson. Since May 25th, he is hitting 367 with a 1027 OPS and a 185 weighted runs created plus. In this span, out of about 180 qualifiers, his average ranks 5th, his on-base percentage ranks 8th, his slugging ranks 7th, his OPS ranks 5th, his weighted runs created plus ranks 5th, and his F-WAR total package ranks 2nd, because he's a great defender and a quality base runner as well. Also, since this date, out of 245 batters with 50 plus batted balls, his expected WOBA ranks 7th, I believe. It might have changed. That's the one stat I forgot to change, but it's in the top 10 for sure out of 245. On the defensive side, he also ranks 18th in defensive runs above average. So the changes for Dansby Swanson offensively, we'll start with the line drive rate. That has gone from 23.7% to 32.4%. that rate, that 32.4% line drive rate, ranks 14th out of 245 in this span. Also, his hard hit line drive rate has gone from 11.8% to 20.6%, which is 10th out of 245. Is, his hard hit line drive rate, one of the best since your birthday, Daniel, since May 25.
Yeah.
His also his in just count statistics, his 21 hard hit line drives, which are line drives hit 95 plus miles per hour, his 21 hard hit line drives since May 25th are second most in baseball. Only Aaron Judge is ahead of him. And in this span, his strikeout rate has gone from 34% before this span to 18%, nearly cut it in half. Dansby Swanson has.
Wow.
A lot of it has to do with how he's done with two strikes, particularly. This is kind of fascinating. So before this span, in two strike counts, he hit 172 with a 535 OPS and a 54.9% strikeout rate. But in this span with two strikes, he is hitting 296 with an 854 OPS and a 34.7% strikeout rate. So his strikeout rate with two strikes has gone down about 20%. His OPS has gone up over 300 points. And his OPS with two strikes in this span ranks 9th out of 239 qualifying batters, and his slugging ranks 6th. So Dansby Swanson, he's getting line drives at a better rate, getting hard hit line drives at a better rate, and really adjusting well with two strikes. This is a kind of important how about that too, but because I believe he's a free agent at the end of this year. So he's trying to get that money. He's performed very well defensively, and now offensively he has become he's had an elite month, to say the least. 5th in weighted runs created plus in over a month span. So Dansby Swanson getting a very well deserved.
How about that?
Yes, he is.
So now we go from the highs to the lows, where we're talking players or subjects that are underperforming with our Tuesday, June 28, 2022 edition of
Slightly alarming.
Who do you have for us today?
So I'm talking about Key Brian Hayes. I don't really have a way to intro him, but it's been a bit concerning. He's had some concern. I mean, his defense is excellent. I feel like if you ask the average baseball fan what his career OPS plus is, I feel like a lot of people would have an answer that's higher than 106.
True.
But, that's where he's at right now. And a lot of it has to do with what he's done since June 10th, because since then he is slashing 158, 172, 316 for a 488 OPS and a 30 weighted runs created plus. That ranks 8th worst among qualifiers in that span. Before the span, he had an 11.5% walk rate, and in the span it is 1.7%, also the 8th worst among qualifiers. Before the span, his strikeout rate was 19.7%, and in this span it is 32.8%. He also, I mentioned sweet spot percentage with Josiah Gray, and it applies here too. Key Brian Hayes' sweet spot percentage in this span is 21.1%. That is the 12th lowest of the 268 hitters with at least 25 batted balls over this span. And also in this span, 42.1% of his batted balls have had a launch angle at or below -5. So that is a sharp ground ball directly into the ground. 42% of the time, that's what he's doing when he's not striking out 32% of the time. And that is the 6th highest rate on that same list of 268 hitters. So Key Brian Hayes, the Pirates haven't been doing super well lately. They've been kind of promising here and there. O'Neal Cruz is up now, which is cool, but Key Brian Hayes hasn't been able to pick up that part of the load.
Key Brian Hayes.
Slightly alarming.
In our F4 league, I acquired him on June 10th, so love to see that. But yeah, and I had him as a slightly alarming last year, and the problem was ground balls. So it's when he's hitting ground balls is when he's having problems, or an excessive amount of ground balls. Ground balls are going to happen, but if you're hitting, a lot more than you should, bad things can happen. This is maybe the most obscure I've gone for a slightly
Really
alarming.
I love it.
I'm talking about the San Francisco Giants defense. Their defense. After having 27 outs above average as a team last year to rank 5th in Major League Baseball, the Giants defense has negative 26 outs above average, which is second to last in baseball. The Giants BABIP against is third highest in baseball. That's kind of a luck factor. So pitchers have been having the third worst luck, and a lot of it has to do with their defense. Their batting average minus expected batting average and their WOBA minus xWOBA is second unluckiest in the league. And then breaking it down individually, Brandon Crawford had 15 outs above average last year. This year, he has -4. Mike Yastrzemski had 6 outs above average last year. This year, he has 0. Darren Ruff had 4 outs above average last year. This year, he has -5. And Braden Belt had 2 outs above average last year, and this year he has -3. A lot of individual Giants have just been doing a lot more poorly defensively. The Giants as a whole team have a 4.01 ERA and a 3.52 FIP. Alex Cobb has been the worst victim of that. He has a 5.48 ERA, 3.21 FIP, and a 2.33 expected ERA, with an actual ERA, in the mid fives. Alex Wood is another victim of this. He has a 5.05 ERA and a 3.61 FIP. And last year, I highlighted Giants pitching for their increasing ground ball rate. They had a massive transition where they just induce ground balls now all the time. So the Giants have the highest ground ball rate in all of baseball, and they have the third lowest average exit velocity against on those particular ground balls. So you would imagine that would produce very, very good results. However, the Giants have the third highest average against on ground balls with a 261 average. They also have the second highest batting average minus expected batting average on ground balls, particularly, meaning they're second unluckiest with batting average on ground balls. Also, opponents are hitting 194 on ground balls, 90 miles per hour or less, which is the highest average on such ground balls in the league. The league average batting average on ground balls of 90 miles per hour or less is 150. Giants as a team are at 194. And also, last thing I will say is all those stats do not include bunts. So it's just regular ground balls on regular swings. And the Giants defense, they've took a turn for the worst. It's been very weird to see, especially when you look at a guy like Brandon Crawford, who was near top of the league last year and now near bottom of the league. That's pretty crazy to consider. So you have to wonder what's going on there. But the Giants defense are getting a
slightly alarming.
And that does it for players to highlight. And now we'll get into our previews of the week ahead. I'll talk about some series to watch. Daniel will talk about some day-by-day pitching matchups. We're actually going to be hoping to record on Thursday, so not too much to preview today, but some of the series to talk about have already started. But one that just started an hour ago was Guardians Twins. I'm wondering what the length of that series is going to be. That will be, they have a doubleheader today and then a game on Wednesday and Thursday. So battling it out for the top of the AL Central with the Guardians and Twins, going to be a 4-game series. It's, as we're recording this, it has already started. That's a very quality matchup to watch. Red Sox Blue Jays as well is a pretty big one to watch.
Chris, can you
3-game series. It started last night. Red Sox kind of punted the game. They had Connor Siebold going against Kevin Gausman, and they lost 7-0, as one would expect. And then there's also some quality interleague matchups. You got the Mets and Astros completing their 4-game season series at Citi Field.
You have a World Series rematch.
You have a World Series rematch between
Somewhere in here.
Between the Giants and Tigers.
Yes, you do.
But yeah, the battle of
Tarek Skubal going in the revenge game tonight
yes, big time.
from 10 years ago.
He was 14 when that was going on.
I bet the Giants are doing the 10-year anniversary this weekend.
That would be
If they haven't already. If it would make sense. Actually, it's on a Tuesday. Probably not. I don't think they do it for a week series.
Yeah, Spencer Torkelson has had this one on his mind for a while.
When he was in like 8th grade.
Yeah. He was like 12 watching the series being like, God, I can't.
Like we're gonna get those guys.
You finally have our opportunity. So yeah, World Series rematch there, and yeah, another quality interleague series going on is Rays Brewers at Tropicana. So yeah, that does it for series to watch. What do you got for the day-by-day matchups?
So we're only doing 2 days between shows. So on Tuesday tonight, Frankie Montas will be going for the A's against the Yankees in the Yankee Stadium. In Red Sox Blue Jays, Michael Wacha versus Ross Stripling is tonight. They've both been having pretty under-the-radar good seasons. Framber Valdez will be going for the Astros against the Mets at Citi Field. Brandon Woodruff and Shane Baz will be facing each other in Brewers and Rays. That is Brandon Woodruff's, I believe, his return from the IL.
Yes.
Yeah. You will have Luis Castillo and Keegan Thompson going for each other in Reds versus Cubs at Wrigley. Kershaw versus Freeland and Dodgers Rockies at Coors. Sean Manaea versus Zach Gallen and Padres Diamondbacks. That's a good one. Tarek Skubal versus Carlos Rodon in the aforementioned Tigers and Giants. Robbie Ray will be going for the Mariners against the Orioles. He'll be facing Dean Creamer. We'll be talking about the Orioles next episode, so that's a tease. Match for the night comes from Braves Phillies, Charlie Morton versus Zach Wheeler.
Oh yeah, that's a good one. That is a good one.
That's a quality matchup. So then on Wednesday, Eric Lauer will be facing the Rays for the Brewers and Tropicana. Jameson Taillon will be facing Cole Irvin and A's Yankees. Justin Verlander and Taijuan Walker will be facing each other in Astros Mets. Dane Dunning and Zach Greinke will be facing each other in Rangers Royals at Kauffman. You will have Mike Clevenger and Madison Bumgarner facing each other in Padres Diamondbacks. Alex Wood will be facing the Tigers for the Giants. You will have Kyle Wright and Ranger Suarez facing each other in Braves Phillies at Citizens Bank. Nick Pivetta versus Alek Manoah in Red Sox Blue Jays. That's a good one. Dylan Bundy versus Cal Quantrill in Twins Guardians in Cleveland. Sandy Alcantara facing his former team in St. Louis. That'll be an exciting one. Just anytime Sandy pitches, really, it's an exciting one. Hunter Green versus Justin Steele in Reds Cubs at Wrigley. Julio Urias versus German Marquez at Coors. And match for the night comes from Angel Stadium. Michael Kopech versus Shohei Ohtani.
Yeah, couple of
that was an under the radar, very good matchup.
Couple of real fireballers going at it in it's in Anaheim.
Yep.
In Anaheim. So yeah, that does it for this installment of Above Replacement Radio. We hope you enjoyed this one. We hope to see you in the future. If you're listening on Apple Podcasts or Spotify and want to watch the conversation as it happens, go to our YouTube channel. It's called Above Replacement Radio and subscribe to it. Also, if you want to follow us on social media, follow me on Twitter at Chris_Gianta and follow Daniel on both Twitter and Instagram at Daniel_Curran, and follow the show Instagram at Above Replacement Radio for all your show needs. And yeah, we hope you enjoyed this one, and we hope to see you on Thursday, where we will be talking all the happenings in Major League Baseball once again. We will see you then.
This conversation is over.